Hello and welcome to our webcast for September 21st, 2018. My name is Amy Hasbrook, and along with me we have Taylor Hyatt, our
policy analyst and outreach coordinator.
I'm saying this in English.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so you may have noticed is that TVNDY is not here. He is out working the Quebec election, so we're going to have to just muddle along without him. We are with Toujours Vivant, not dead yet, and TVNDY is a non-religious organization by and for people with disabilities and their allies. Our goal is to inform, unify, and give voice to the disability rights opposition to assisted suicide, euthanasia, and other ending of life practices that discriminate against people with disabilities. Today's topic, Health Canada's third interim report on assisted suicide and euthanasia. So let's jump right in. On June 21st, 2018, Health Canada released its third interim report on assisted suicide and euthanasia in Canada. This document covers deaths that took place from July 1st to December 31st, 2017. A fourth report is expected to document the program's activities from January to June 2018. And the first and second interim reports came out within a couple of months of the end of the reporting period. But this report actually was 6 months after the end of the reporting period. And if that tendency continues, the fourth report is going to be even longer after the end of the reporting period. And so who knows when, who knows when the information is going to be available. So it's unclear how Health Canada intends to report assisted suicide and euthanasia that occur between July 1st and when the final monitoring regulations take effect on November 1st of this year. That's assuming the permanent monitoring system is ready to go into effect, that the online portal is up and running, that practitioners and pharmacists know how to use it. So that's a lot of ifs. After November 1st, Health Canada will only report information obtained in accordance with the monitoring regulations that we talked about last week.
And if the portal is done on time, it seems like doctors will have more opportunities to make mistakes if they rush them through their training on how to use the portal.
Right, exactly. There's just, you know, it's sort of a slow motion train wreck.
Yeah.
You can see it coming. Here it comes down the track. Oh boy.
Would the canary in the coal mine be accurate here? We're the ones trying to warn you about all the problems.
Yeah. Okay, the first and second interim reports were released in April of 2017 and October of 2017. They provide limited information about Canadians who died by assisted suicide and euthanasia from June to December of 2016 and January to June 2017. The first report also includes statistics from Quebec for the 6 months from December of 2015 to June 2016. Our webcasts of May 5th, 2017 and October 20th, 2017 provide a summary of the federal reports, and the November 4th, 2016 and November 10th, 2017 webcasts describe the Quebec reports.
And we know that in the Quebec reports, people died without being eligible to end their lives. That information was never documented at the federal level, and now an important piece of data is being lost.
Right, exactly. It's lost both in the interim reports, and it's not going to be gathered in the final, under the final regulations. Okay, here are some highlights of the third interim report. 1,525 people, 1,525 people across Canada died by assisted suicide and euthanasia between July 1st and December 31st, 2017. All of these deaths were by euthanasia. No one self-administered the lethal drug in an assisted suicide. The numbers of each reporting period are increasing. So the first reporting period, there were 970 people, including 167 from Quebec, before the federal law went into effect. The second period was 1,179. And the third is this, like I said, 1,525 period. We didn't work out the percentages of the increase between the three reports, but the numbers show that far from exceptional, this is a routine procedure. It was supposed to be exceptional for exceptional cases, right? A total of 3,000.
Look in other places.
Go ahead.
Sorry, we were talking over top of each other, and there was an issue with my speakers. If you look in other places, Canada is not the only place where you'll see those increases. Oregon has them too, and I'm not sure off the top of my head about any other states.
Right. Other states report increases, but it's interesting because the increases in the United States are not as big as in Europe. And the difference between the United States and Europe is that in Europe, they do euthanasia like we do here. And in the US, people have assisted suicide. So they get the prescription for the drug, but they have to take the drug themselves. So that seems to be a fairly big difference. So a grand total of 3,714 Canadians died by assisted suicide and euthanasia between December of 2015 and December of 2017. Of those, only 4 people opted for assisted suicide. And that's kind of odd, given that people are talking about, I want to take control of my life, so I'm letting somebody else do it.
Yeah.
Okay. You may have noticed that the totals from the 3 interim reports only add up to 3,674. At least I noticed. 40 less than the grand total of 3,714. We can only guess that the 40 missing people were euthanized in the smallest provinces and territories, and their deaths were not reported due to privacy reasons. And so much for those 40 lost souls. Okay, once again, the inconsistency of data collected among the different provinces makes it impossible to compare data points in all locations. For example, since the territories have such small populations, information about assisted suicide and euthanasia in the Yukon, the Northwest Territory, and Nunavut have been suppressed to protect the privacy of those who requested or received it. But obviously, we've seen an accumulation of people who, in those situations, of 40 people who aren't being counted somehow. Right. Quebec's provincial profile is not reported, and the Atlantic provinces, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick, are combined into one, quote, regional profile. Okay. A table reporting on requests that don't end in assisted suicide and euthanasia from 7 provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Quebec, Newfoundland, PEI, and Nova Scotia, shows a marked decrease in the number of people who died before the eligibility determination process was completed, even though the total number of requests increased from 832 to 1,066. This figure went from 24%, or 202 people, in the first half of 2017 to 14%, or 149 people, in the second half who died before their assessments were finished. It's unclear whether this means that the evaluation process is becoming more efficient, or what we think is more likely, that the assessment process, the assessments are being rushed. you know, as people get more used to it, they're just saying, oh yeah, check.
Yeah.
And you know, the CBC keeps printing the press releases from Dying with Dignity that talk about how terrible it is that people have to wait.
We've seen one almost every day this week.
Yeah, they're pushing it. Okay, some data remain consistent. The average age of people who receive euthanasia at about 73 years. The percentage of women, 51%, versus men, 49%, who die also remained consistent through 2017. Cancer is still the most common medical condition affecting people who choose assisted suicide and euthanasia. It was the cause of 65% of the applications filed in the second half of 2017. And I wrote that cancer was the cause of the request, but in fact, we've pointed out often that the underlying medical condition is not the only reason that people ask for assisted suicide. It's usually, you know, only part of the reason that people ask. Okay. Here's what we know about where the euthanasia are taking place. 40% of the deaths happened in a hospital. 43% occurred in the person's home. 5.3% of the euthanasias were performed in long-term care facilities or nursing homes. 3% were done in hospices, and deaths in hospices were counted as a separate category for the first time in this report. Notably, the location of 7.9% of the deaths, that's 86 people, is listed as other or unknown. Other includes retirement homes, assisted or supported living, ambulatory settings, i.e. walk-in clinics, day programs, clinicians' offices, funeral homes, hotels or motels, or another undisclosed location. The unknown label includes data that was suppressed by provinces due to smaller numbers, less than 7, and associated privacy concerns.
Nursing homes were on that list. To call them restricted and sometimes unsafe is an understatement. We could devote a whole other episode to those. Although the monotony of life in an institution might make someone want to end their life, we also need to remember that the places where people died might not be the places where they lived.
Right, exactly. And in fact, the new regulation, neither the reports now nor the new regulations track whether people were homeless or in prison. So there's a lot of information that's not being passed along. The most common reasons given for denial of assisted suicide requests include loss of competency, death not being reasonably foreseeable, or other, but other is not explained. So they don't give percentages on how many of those denials are for which reason. And they only give 3 reasons. Other is not explained. So, okay, no information is provided about incomplete or missing reports. So they must not exist, right?
Yeah.
The living situation of those who died, which Taylor just mentioned, the reasons people wanted to die, whether the person needed or received palliative care or supports to live in their own homes, whether they were subject to external pressure to request assisted suicide and euthanasia, either from another person or due to circumstances like financial problems or abuse, and proof that all safeguards were followed and eligibility criteria were met. And if you recall from the actual statute, it says that the doctor has to be of the opinion that they did, you know, this eligibility criteria was met, but there's no proof required. Okay. Looking at this report alongside the final monitoring regulations paints a pretty grim picture. Both documents have many missing pieces. Incomplete monitoring will make it nearly impossible to detect problems, predict trends, and discover and improve the situations that prompt requests for assisted suicide and euthanasia. Lives will be at risk until and unless the government puts more rigorous standards in place. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, the problem that arose in the trial court in the Carter case and that carried all the way through to the Supreme Court was that there was no clear evidence that ineligible people were dying where euthanasia was legal at that time. That was due to the way ending of life procedures were reported in the jurisdictions where it was legal. And now Canada is setting itself up to be yet another jurisdiction where lax reporting will hide the problem, overreaching, and abuse in the system. So
that's that.
That's that, indeed.
I have a bit of a theory. Now, where is the number that goes with that theory? Yes. Only 4 people opted to have an assisted suicide. In other words, to start the process of death by themselves.
Yes.
I wonder how much a societal fear of death or the idea of death as this unknown, scary thing comes into play. There might be a bigger, I don't know, mental hurdle to jump over when you realize, oh, I have to start this totally unknown process by myself.
Yes.
Versus I can give up some of this control and I'll have somebody there, and it's almost comforting.
Right. I think absolutely you're right. And I think that human beings have an instinct for self-preservation. And that is, that is a good thing. That is what prevents us from, throwing ourselves off of high buildings all the time, or at least most of us. And it's a good thing. So when we sort of sidestep that instinct by giving the responsibility to somebody else, it's sort of like when people say that women enjoy rape because it takes the responsibility away from them. No.
Ew, what kind of theory? Oh, gross.
Right, but that's a very commonly held belief. And, in a way, it's sort of a similar idea that if you give up responsibility, then it's easier. Well, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. So there you go. All right. If you want more information about the topics that we discuss in our webcasts, you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/toujourvivant, not dead yet, all one word. You can visit our website at tvndy.ca. You can email us at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow us on Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks to Taylor for being with us, and thanks to you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.